Hello, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and let's talk Spawn, because Todd Mcfarlane has made a massive announcement. And yes, you're probably going to think, oh my god, it's so big and such a great announcement. No, it's not. He talked exclusively to the resident mouthpiece of Todd Mcfarlane, comicbook.com, because Todd won't speak to anyone that will actually question him on anything at all. Comicbook.com do his PR. That's basically what they are. They are Todd's PR. It's a joke. So he's announced the new comic, Spawn Universe, and he's also spoken about the film that is apparently never going to be made. And I want to talk about that because that's funny. I've got the script for that film. It's garbage. I've done some videos on it. It's not a good script. Spawn appears as fog and a bed and stuff like this. I'm not, by the way, I'm not joking. He does appear as a bed. It's bad. It's not a good script. But then I also want to ask you guys, anyone who actually paid for Todd Mcfarlane's Kickstarter, and maybe we can get some movement on this, but I know that the guys in the UK that contributed to Todd's Kickstarter to buying a new Spawn figure, they're not getting their figures yet, and that's bad. People in the US have started, being notified of when those are going to ship, but there is no updates on when any other parts of the world are getting their Spawn figures. And if he doesn't do it soon, I mean, people have to call him out on this. That's bad. That's dodgy dealings. Give people an update. And don't use COVID as an excuse, Todd, because I ordered suspension parts for a car from the States. It arrived within 5 days. So don't use COVID as an excuse. It's an excuse. It's a lazy one. It's a bad one. It's not a reason. So anyway, let's dive into this today. So let's take a look. This was, again, he spoke exclusively with comicbook.com, as he always does. Todd Mcfarlane launching new Spawn comics. Basically, yeah, I'm making like a Spawn universe, is what he was saying. So the year of Spawn begins in earnest in June with Spawn's Universe #1, a book that will set the stage with a story that will then spill out into other new monthly titles, the first of which release in August with a book called King Spawn. These releases will mark the first time in 28 years that fans can get their hands on a new monthly issue of a Spawn book. In October comes the second new monthly called Gunslinger Spawn. Finally, there will be a new team, #1 team book titled The Scorched, which will band 5 characters together to fight against forces too big for any of them to take on alone. Spawn, Redeemer, Gunslinger, Medieval Spawn, and She-Spawn begin the group's adventures, but Macfarlane promises a rotating cast of heroes over the coming months to keep the roster of heroes fresh. He also said that he will be bringing in new major villains into the fold too. He's not writing these, as far as I was aware. He's got loads of talent on board to do it on his behalf. This to me is #3. Macfarlane told Comic Book that the series' first issue was the first step, and the record-breaking 300th was the second. If I do my job right, we will be looking back 10, 20 years from now on 2021 as one of the seminal moments in my comic book career. This is how big it is, that I'm contemplating it in my head, and I'm not saying that it will launch to that, but just like nobody knew what Spawn was going to be after a couple of issues. If I do my job right, 10 years from now, there will be a dozen, if not dozens of books and hundreds of characters. And this was the official beginning of that quest to see if it can be done again. So he's basically saying, I'm making this massive interconnected universe. Spawn's universe. So here's She-Spawn, I guess. This isn't about just a Spawn story and expanding Spawn. This is expanding creativity and or possibility on multiple mediums in the future. The goal is to create possibilities, and the possibilities aren't going to come unless you've got the characters and you've got the foundation. All of it adds up to the other companies and corporations and eyeballs and fans looking at this brand and saying, what else you got? He's just trying to sell stuff. He's a damn good salesman. So there you go. I don't want to touch on that too much. Just whatever. And this seemingly confirms more of that anyway, that mentality of just trying to sell stuff. So, of course, one must wonder how much that changes his plans for film and TV projects, because he's saying about the Spawn multiverse. which has reportedly included a Spawn movie, a Spawn cartoon, and Sam and Twitch live-action TV show. That's how much this guy has just talked crap and nothing has ever happened. Spawn movie, no, not happening. Spawn, again, I want it to happen. I like the character, but Todd, mate, let go of it a little bit, dude. Spawn cartoon, where's that? Sam and Twitch live-action TV show. Does that mean he's changing those plans already? It's a bit of a weird answer, Macfarlane admitted. It's yes and no. Here's where the no is. It doesn't change my plans if I just plan on going into Hollywood and selling them a Spawn movie. Done. In, out, done. Mate, if it was that easy, you would have done it by now. Give me a break. The bigger conversation, the bigger what if, is are we talking just about Spawn? There is a much bigger machine behind that character than you guys can imagine. And oh, by the way, I'm going to introduce people on a regular basis, monthly, to some of them. And within years, I'm hoping each one of those books multiplies into hundreds of new characters. He just wants to be Marvel. Hundreds of new characters. I'm not saying they're all going to be worthwhile. Don't create them then. But why are we talking about one and done and one and done and one and done? It isn't just a question of giving him more to say to studios, but providing a broader base of appeal and more characters and concepts for producers, filmmakers, and yes, comic book readers to latch onto. I tell you what annoys me about this article is comicbook.com only mention comic book readers at the end. Their primary focus, clearly Macfarlane's primary focus, is just pitching stuff to filmmakers. You guys all sit there and look at Marvel and DC with envy. So is it possible to create a much smaller version of that? And who knows, 40 years on, where it goes, right? I just go out with a movie. Do I go out with something grander than that? Again, he's just trying to sell stuff. It's just so lazy. Anyway, here we go. Here's the grand update. Todd Mcfarlane hopes to have a big Spawn movie announcement by mid-year. Well, you're 4 months away, mate. You better make a move on. Like, come on. You're 4 months away from that. If you haven't got it now, you're not going to have it then, are you? Todd Mcfarlane's road to a Spawn movie has been a twisting and turning one. And with the announcement today that he will vastly expand the universe that the characters inhabit, it now seems that the movie he wants to make might change shape slightly to incorporate some of these big new ideas. You'd have to rewrite the whole movie then, because that script was crap. You can't work that other things into it. That obviously wouldn't be the case if somebody came to him today and said, okay, so let's get this thing into production. But after more than a year of waiting, it's been a long time, waiting for the moment to be right, Macfarlane seems a little frustrated and more committed than ever to doing what he set out to do, directing a movie he can personally be proud of. So pay for it yourself. Like, this guy's a multi-millionaire. Anyway, so he comes on and says, it's the same sort of frustration, Macfarlane says, of what's holding things up at the moment. I keep saying the same thing, and at some point I'm sure it falls on deaf ears, but we just added another person. Movement is happening. We crossed the threshold literally last week. I get it, because we're living in a weird time in the pandemic and nobody wants to say anything because you don't know what's going to happen and whatever else. Loads is being announced. Macfarlane, stop using the pandemic as an excuse. Seriously, you're an idiot. But we as a collective team are doing what needs to be done to keep this moving. We put a little bit of pressure on ourselves to say, can we have, by mid-year, something really big and tangible to go public with? Well, it doesn't matter, even if you don't. You're still going to talk about it, like you always do. And then it says, which is not only to backtrack on the people we've added, but also to say, and we sold it to a studio, something that's really tangible. You already have a studio on board, Blumhouse, unless you're now saying that they're off. What is going on? Anyway, stuff's happening, just wait. That's not a very satisfying answer, which is essentially what I'm saying, and that's what's frustrating. Basically, blah, 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 nothing is happening. Nothing is going on. And then it brings me on to the last bit, which is, again, I ask anyone who's watching this, if you're in the UK, because again, I know people that have paid for this Spawn product in the UK, and they're not getting any updates on their shipping. It's been a long time now. It's sort of breaching what they stated on their Kickstarter. So, yeah. Are you in the UK? Did you pay for the Spawn figure? Do you know anything? Have you received any update from customer services? From Todd's team? Because the people that I've spoken to, that have spoken to the customer services, are being fobbed off. They're getting no updates at all, despite the fact that the USA guys are. So, let me know. Anyway, let me know what you think about this down below in the comments. If you're new here, do hit subscribe. Thanks so much. Take care.